Hello and welcome to the old Fliers. One of the more interesting British aviation manufacturers has to be Wright Brothers. The number of different aircraft they built was prodigious. As we tell their story, let's have a look at these. The Wright Brothers business started in 1897 when Eustace Short bought a second-hand coal gas-filled balloon, and with his brother Oswald started a company to develop and manufacture balloons. Coal gas is chiefly hydrogen and methane and is less dense than air. From 1902, they manufactured the balloons at Hove, Sussex, in premises above the acoustic laboratory run by their brother Horace. In 1903, when Horace left to work on steam turbine development with Charles Parsons, Eustace and Oswald moved their workshop to London under railway arches next to the Battersea Gasworks. In 1905, they won a contract for 3 balloons for the British Indian Army. The quality of their work impressed Colonel James Templar, superintendent of the Royal Balloon Factory, who introduced the brothers to Charles Rolls. Rolls commissioned them to build him a large balloon to compete in the 1906 Gordon Bennett Cup balloon race. More orders soon followed from other members of the Aero Club of Great Britain, later known as the Royal Aero Club. In 1908, on hearing reports from Aero Club members who had seen the Wright Brothers demonstrations of their aircraft at Le Mans in France, Oswald Short reportedly said to Eustace, "This is the finish of ballooning. We must begin building aeroplanes at once, and we can't do that without Horace." Oswald succeeded in persuading Horace to leave his job with Parsons, and in November 1908 they registered their partnership under the name Wright Brothers. At that time, aviation was in its infancy. Just 10 years since the Wright Brothers proved that controlled flight was possible. 2 orders for aircraft were soon received, one from Charles Rolls, who ordered a glider, and the other from Francis McLean. At the end of 1908, Horace started work on the 2 designs, and in early 1909, construction was started of McLean's aircraft, the Short No. 1 biplane. In March 1909, it was exhibited at the first British Aero Show held at Olympia. Meanwhile, the brothers had obtained the British rights to build copies of the Wright design. In February 1909, Short started construction of a new workshop on unobstructed marshland at Laysdown near Shell Beach on the Isle of Sheppey. Construction of an initial batch of 6 aircraft was started immediately. Wright Brothers thus became the first aircraft manufacturing company in the world to undertake volume production of an aircraft design. Here the Dundee 5, the first tailless aircraft, was also built under contract. In 1910, the Royal Aero Club and Wright Brothers moved to a larger and less marshy ground at Eastchurch, about 4 kilometres away. At this time, the Royal Aero Club had offered the Admiralty the use of the flying field, and Frank McLean had agreed to act as an instructor, so beginning a close association between Wright Brothers and the Naval Air Service, whose first pilots were trained using short S-27 pusher biplanes. In 1911, Shorts built one of the world's first successful twin-engine aircraft, the Triple Twin. Construction started on a long series of naval aircraft floatplanes, starting with the Short S-26. With the outbreak of World War I, Short's production really started to expand. For example, for the Short Admiralty Type 184. On the 15th of August 1915, during the Battle of Gallipoli, a Short S-184 was the first aircraft to attack a ship with a live torpedo, sinking a Turkish supply ship. The S-184 was Short's most successful pre-World War II aircraft. Over 900 were produced. Due to the company's success and the increasing number of seaplanes being produced, larger premises with ready access to the sea were needed. At that time, seaplanes were taken by road to Queensborough, then loaded onto lighters to be taken to the RNAS seaplane station on the Isle of Grain to be launched and tested. By early 1915, the first facility of what was to become known as the Seaplane Works was completed at Borstal. In 1916, Wright Brothers were awarded a contract to build 2 large dirigible airships for the Admiralty. As part of the contract, a loan was provided to enable the company to purchase a site near Cardington, Bedfordshire, on which to build airship construction facilities. As a result, the company concentrated on the construction of heavier-than-air airplanes in the Isle of Shepney, Rochester area, and balloons and dirigibles at Cardington. A housing estate built by the company near Cardington to house its employees still bears the name Shortstown. During the immediate post-war years, the economic climate was difficult for the aircraft industry in the United Kingdom. Shorts survived without reducing the company's workforce by diversifying into areas such as building lightweight bus and tram bodies. During the 1920s and 30s, flying boats were favoured for long-range civil aviation because their operation did not rely on the existence of suitable airfields, which were not widespread at the time. Shorts took to the flying boat market and in 1924 constructed a 350-foot testing tank for testing hull and float designs. Shorts designed the floats used for the Supermarine S4 and Gloucester III seaplanes entered by the United Kingdom for the 1925 Schneider Trophy race. Alan Cobham's de Havilland DH-50 was also fitted with the Shorts floats at Rochester. On the 30th of June 1926, Cobham then started a flight to Australia from the Medway. In 1924, Shorts produced the first of a series of 3 designs known as the Singapore. In 1927, the Singapore 1 was used by Alan Cobham when he and his wife and crew made a survey of Africa, which covered about 23,000 miles. Shorts then started design work on the Short Calcutta, based on the Singapore's layout but larger and more powerful, which began service with the Imperial Airways in August 1928. By April 1929, 2 more had been added to the fleet and they operated passenger-preferred coastal routes from Genoa to Alexandria by way of Athens, Corfu, Naples and Rome. Several Calcuttas were used on shorter routes and were instrumental in permitting long-range airline services between outposts of the British Empire. Shorts followed the production of 4 Calcuttas with the larger Kent, following with a series of still larger aircraft designs such as the Short Empire, the first of which was launched on the 2nd of July 1936. The Empire was commissioned off the drawing board by Imperial Airways, later BOAC, to operate the UK's Empire Airmail scheme. A year later, Shorts won a British government defence contract for the Sunderland military patrol flying boat, sharing a similar design but incorporating some aerodynamic and hydrodynamic advances and a more rounded top of the fuselage that incorporated several gunners' positions. It was claimed by the British propaganda people that the Germans called it the Flying Porcupine. In 1933, Shorts opened a new factory at Rochester Airport, which was becoming increasingly important for the land planes the company was producing. The East Church premises was closed in 1934, and in the same year, Shorts purchased the engine manufacturer Pobjoy, which had moved to Rochester Airport to be near Shorts and had collaborated on its latest designs. On the 5th of July 1937, a Short Empire was used by Imperial Airways for the first westbound transatlantic service from Foynes Island to Newfoundland. In 1936, the Air Ministry established a new aircraft factory at Belfast and created a new company, Short and Hartland Limited, owned 50% each by Hartland and Wolff and Shorts. The first products of the new factory were 50 Bristol bomb bays, followed by 150 Handley Page Hereford bombers. Shorts' work on seaplanes eventually culminated in the Short Sandringham and Short Seaford, both based on the Empire Sunderland boats. These flying boats had enough range to operate as a transatlantic airliner and largely served the post-war Empire Commonwealth market, in competition with four-engine land planes such as modified Avro Lancasters, Avro Lancastrian and Avro York. During the Battle of Britain, the Rochester factory was heavily bombed by the Luftwaffe, and several Stirlings and other aircraft were destroyed. To prevent raids from limiting production, satellite factories near Belfast were operated at Eldergrove and Margebury, producing 232 Stirlings between them. During the Second World War, the Short Sunderland was an effective anti-submarine patrol bomber operated by RAF Coastal Command in the Battle of the Atlantic, the Mediterranean, in Asia and South Pacific because of its availability, endurance and weapon load. It also carried out air-sea rescue operations. In the absence of sufficient Sunderlands, Australia impressed Qantas Imperial Short Empire flying boats into military service and used them successfully on reconnaissance missions in the Timor Sea area. Short's work on the Sunderland also won it the contract for the Short Stirling four-engine bomber transport for the RAF. This was essentially a land-based Sunderland. However, its use of a now outdated thick-section, low aspect ratio wing and inability to carry the newer, larger bombs limited its use. Attempts by Shorts to sell improved versions to the RAF were ignored, not least over concerns regarding Oswald's leadership and alcoholism. In 1944, the Short Shetland, a high-speed, long-range four-engine flying boat, was built with Saunders Roe providing the wings, but the project was abandoned shortly after the end of the war. Conversions and developments of the Sunderland entered service as transports, starting during the war with the Hythe, then the post-war Sandringham. In 1943, the government nationalised Shorts under Defence Regulation 78. Oswald Short, who had resigned as chairman in January of that year, remained as honorary life president. By 1947, all of Short's other wartime factories had been closed and operations concentrated in Belfast. In 1948, the company offices followed and Shorts became a Belfast company in its entirety. In the 1950s, Shorts was involved in much pioneering research, including designing and building the VTOL Short SC-1, the Short S-85 and the Short S-84 Sherpa. Shorts built the Short Sperrin, a backup jet engine bomber design in case the V-bomber projects failed, and the Short Seamew, a cheap-to-produce anti-submarine reconnaissance and attack aircraft intended for the Royal Navy Volunteer Reserve squadrons. In the 1950s, Shorts also received subcontracts to build 150 English electric Canberras, and on the 30th of October 1952, the first of those made its maiden flight. As early as 1953, Shorts became involved with pioneering the development of electronic analog computers to assist with the design of increasingly complex aircraft. In 1954, the Bristol Aeroplane Company became a shareholder in Shorts, and the company used the injection of funds to set up a production line for the Bristol Britannia turboprop airliner, known in the press as the Whispering Giant. Eventually, 15 Britannias were completed by Shorts. In the 1960s, Shorts found a niche for new short-haul freighter aircraft and responded with the short SC-7 Skyvan. The Skyvan is remembered for its box-like slab-sided appearance and rectangular twin-tail units, but the aircraft was well loved for its performance and loading. It served almost the same performance niche as the de Havilland Twin Otter, and the Skyvan proved more popular in the freighter market due to the larger rear cargo door that allowed it to handle bulky loads with ease. Skyvans can still be found around the world today. In the 1970s, Shorts entered the feeder liner market with the Shorts 330, a stretched modification of the Skyvan called the C-23 Sherpa in the US Air Force service, and another stretch resulted in the more streamlined Shorts 360, in which a more conventional central fin superseded the older H-profiled twin fins. In 1988, the proposed development was announced of a regional jet seating 44 passengers to be called the FJX. The aircraft would have been a competitor to the Bombardier CRJ-100 that was also in development at the time, but the FJX was cancelled after Short Brothers' sale to Bombardier in 1989 for £30 million. The government agreed to write off £390 million of the company's accumulated losses and inject another £390 million to recapitalise the group and cover current and future losses, capital investment and training. Bombardier beat a bid from General Electric Company and Fokker. Messerschmitt, Bolko Blom, had withdrawn before final offers were submitted. Since becoming part of Bombardier Aerospace in 1989, focus was aerospace components rather than individual aircraft models, missiles or drones. In 2019, Bombardier announced the sale of its aerostructures activities to Spirit Aerosystems. In 2000, Thomson CSF bought Bombardier's 50% share to become the sole owner of Shorts Missile Systems, renaming it Thales Air Defence 2001. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe to promote new content.